Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Create. Today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about the Encased fan, the mechanical belt, the extractor, the belt funnel, the motor, and a little bit about what you could possibly do with all these different things. So as you can see here, I've made myself a little bit of a factory setup. On the back end, one of these vanilla villages. I also have this little demonstration area here to illustrate how things are, going to work. I will be using some of this for demonstration. This is actually more of a practical setup. This is more of a creative one, but still. Nonetheless, I have made myself a bread factory, working currently off of a windmill. As you can see here, I currently have just a simple windmill that is being fed into here. And it is slowly turning this shaft down inside this house. There we go, going down into a gearbox, which is then going through an encased shaft in the back. Now, I'm showing you this because I don't want you to feel that this is just a creative-only process. This is definitely intended to be, set up in-world for really fabulous uses. In fact, you can use Create to make stuff from nothing. But that's not what this episode's about, per se. This is how you can make some bread. So, the way I have this set up right now, there's of course a bunch of gears in the back and a bunch of belts. Belts are used in many helpful ways. One is to transport items. If you see here, I currently have some belts that are hooked up on shafts. In order to hook them up, all you need to do is put down two shafts and then connect them with the belt like so, just by right-clicking. Then if you are to, increase or decrease the incline, you can feasibly do so. For example, I could have this go straight up, though it's not actually going to be, moving any items that are on top of it. And that's the primary use for some shafts and belt combinations, but not all. In fact, it's probably about 50% in my mind, because you can use it, as you can see here, in place of gears and cogs to try and, move things around a little bit easier and at range. So if I wanted to, I currently have a motor. This here is an item that is a little bit more difficult to get. It's made with just some iron, obsidian shaft. You'd think, all right, well, that's not a problem, but this chorus chrome is endgame stuff. You need a couple dragon's breath and some pop chorus fruit, or at least that's the default recipe, and it is very adjustable. You place it down, and you can see here it already is rotating. On the back side is the speed setting, and you can go into the negative numbers because it will go in one direction by default, and you can increase that and decrease that as needed to a very high speed, as you can see here. Then let's go back the other way, and you can see it's now positive, going in the opposite direction. And just to give an idea, there you go. You can see that it is going very fast, a bit ridiculously so. And you can slow it down, speed it up, etc. It's really cool, very handy, and once you've gone to the end, it can really make your life a lot easier because you can actually bypass all of the need for any of the cogs, as well as things like a windmill or any other bulkier methods of creating your rotational force. Now in this example, I currently have this just with, as you saw, a motor hooked up with a shaft, and then on top of that I have belts hooked up to it. Actually, let's connect over here. I just need to connect two of these. You can see this one's rotating, this one's not. Connect the two together, and now they both rotate. So therefore I could do this at length. So if I wanted to, I could have a whole, a good distance going really high up or further down, and then I can connect onto those, allowing myself more rotational force elsewhere. As you can see here, I currently have this cog spinning, or this shaft spinning up here, and all I have currently running is this one motor connecting this entire triangle of crazy contraptions. It's a little bit nuts, but yeah, you can just keep on building off that as you could with normal Create stuff. Now, in this case, I'm using it to create rotational force in a triangle, but you can also use it to move items. Let's toss down a few of these things. Zoom, and it shoots a shaft off in the distance because I just tossed it onto the belt. Zoom, just like that. And you can speed this up a lot, and you can actually use it to slingshot yourself and other entities. Kashka and I have been having a lot of fun messing around with that ourselves, and it's very entertaining. Just make sure you've got a way that you can softly land. Now, it's not going to necessarily launch you up in a very high direction, and often it will not be flat on the ground if you do have this being used as like an escalator or something like that. But if you put a half slab in front of it, you will easily be able to walk up on top of that and get up there. And you probably notice that I am being constantly set on fire. Thankfully, I'm in creative mode, so it's not actually doing me any damage. And that is thanks to this little fan item. It's another way of pushing things around that can really be helpful. Now, in this case, that was very, very vague. But let's put this down and see if I can actually rotate this. If I look up create here, I can bring in a gearbox that will change the angle to be more upward. There we go. And then I could feasibly put a fan on top of that. And what is happening here? This is currently pushing me up. I'm in creative mode, so therefore, if I drop this down, you can see I'm kind of like, maybe I'm hovering a little bit. Yeah, I am. I'm no longer flying. I can't even jump. There we go. See, I just fell down a bit. But it's a matter of, if I increase the speed on this, let's get rid of this grass. Let's increase it to 4,096. And then I try and get up here. Let's actually create a stair step for myself. And then I jump up. Whoa! Yep. And it will just keep on, keeping you bouncing around. So you can use this. Very reminiscent of old Thaumcraft days when you had your levitation devices and whatnot. But this can be used to also pull entities. So let's actually rotate this around. We're going to have it so that it is on the front here. And of course it's going to push me because of the direction that I currently have it set. But if I reverse this, oh, actually, yeah, I'm getting yanked on the other side of this. Let's turn this around. And if I am over here and near this area and I start getting a bit closer, obviously it's not going to be a really big range for the suction of this. But then, yep, it's just going to draw me right in and kind of launch me forward if I try going around it. So this can be used as a small suction area and a very large pushing area. So if I toss some things down, it's going to get blown over here quickly. So you don't even need to use the conveyor belts if you don't want to. You can just use that to push things. But also, and more importantly, if I get some water in a bucket here and I push this down, it will actually show you that you can, let's see if it'll actually do it here. No, I've got this in the way, which is kind of a mistake here. Let me show you in a better example. Instead of using that, I currently have motors on the back of these things, of these fans. The encased fan is there, there's a motor on the back, and there's just a block of water. And it is currently blowing these water particles out front. Same thing with the lava and with fire. And these are what you're going to be using to create and better, well, emphasize how important these things are for getting anywhere and create. Honestly, they're going to be your bread and butter. Let me actually empty those off right now. Now, in order to take advantage of these, you're probably going to want to know what in the world they can do. So once these are set up, you can, let's just grab an empty bucket for an example here. I'll grab an empty bucket if I can. There we go. And I will just kind of toss it down right here into the water particles. Slowly and eventually, because I've got it set on the slowest setting right now, it will fill that bucket with water. Boop, just like that. And we've got water. If I take something else, like let's say sand, I might get a chance of getting a secondary product, in this case, like clay. So let's put that down, and it will eventually over time start doing that. And it's the same idea with the lava and with the fire. You might get different outputs. There we go. I just got 2 pieces of clay for that one. Now, some of these ones are chances, some of these are guaranteed. But to give you an idea, if you use water, you can, this whole top line are things that you put in front of it, and the bottom line are the outputs that you would get. So if you get some kind of stained glass, it can make it into clear glass again. It will fill water buckets. It can turn all of your concrete's wool, or any of your concrete powders into concrete. Turn your colored wool into regular white wool. You can make ice into packed ice, no longer needing to, triple condense. You can turn magma blocks into obsidian. You can turn wheat flour into dough. This is something I'm going to show you here shortly, is the bread factory I have set up. And then these are the ones that you can use later on to make into a benefit. for greater gains later on. You can turn gravel into flint and iron nuggets. You can turn soul sand into nether quartz, gold nuggets, sand into clay, and so on. Now that is only water. If I go over here to fire, it's a bit simpler. Basically, any of the raw foods plus kelp and potatoes can be cooked to make something else by placing these items in front of it. It's that simple. That's all the fire does. And the lava itself has a massive quantity of things that it can make. Now, if you put any of the ores in front, you'll get a single of any of the specific items. It'll turn quartz into smooth quartz. Any of your tools or armors will turn into the nugget versions of those. And then, of course, it's just like smelting in a lot of cases. You're cooking things in a furnace, per se. So cobblestone will turn into stone, stone turns into smooth stone, sand into glass, etc. Chorus fruit into pop chorus fruit. And this is the weird thing, dough into bread dough, or into bread. So it doesn't turn into it in the fire. That is the big important part. Sea pickles and cactus into their respective dyes. And then create specific items. Lime sand and will be turned into limestone. Granite into gabbro. Diorite into dolomite. And of course, sponges into wet sponges. Stones into cracked stone bricks. But lime sand, of course, is just some diorite and some sand mixed together to make that. And you get some of these really cool other items. If you look up create, you can see all these really cool different textured blocks and stuff. Your mossy bricks and whatnot, and even a few of the different granite, diorite, and andesite bricks added in. Really cool stuff. But it's really, really helpful because it's free. You don't have to spend any resources once you've created it. Now, of course, there's mechanical belts, but if I want things to automatically be ejected or picked up into chests, how do I do that? Well, I use hoppers, right? Well, you can, or you can use these things like extractors and belt funnels. Belt funnels will actually shoot items out. So if I put something in here, if it is hooked up to a belt that is currently going the other direction, let me see if I can rotate this back the other direction. We'll go -1. Actually, let's make it -4. Otherwise, it's a little bit faster. There we go. -16. And then this normally. Oh, this actually goes the other way around. I forgot. I had it backwards. Please forgive me. I do make mistakes too, folks. This actually picks things up. That's right. This is the belt funnel. It's basically kind of a sideways hopper. So it'll pick things up. There you go. I can just toss it back down here, and it will pick things up into itself if I wasn't that close to it to pick it up myself. There you go. Just like that. Now this one here is the one I thought that it was. The extractor will actually take things out. So if I put an extractor in there, for example, just to show, that stuff will go in there. Of course, this just catches on the block that's in the way. But if I also only want a certain output, let's say I only want extractors to come out of this thing, and I put in a gearbox. Did it go anywhere? No, it didn't. But these sides are trying to exit it, which it did. So let me actually clear these out. There we go. Now if I try putting this gearbox in there, it won't go anywhere. But if I put the extractor in, that is the item that will go out. How do I clear this? You just right click, and then the item will come out of it, or you just click with another item that you want it to filter to. You want 2 of these to come out at a time. So I put 1 in there, nothing's going to happen. I put 2, then they do come out. Pretty darn cool. Really nice way of modifying it so that you can actually have these things coming out. Now in this case, we go in here. Let's turn off the safety switch here so that I can actually drop things in. I've got a little stairway, and all you need to do is either put wheat in here or drop it into the hopper itself. And then it will go from this extractor here up the belt into the crushing, I should say, blocks. Which, if you get stuck on a belt, by the way, press Shift. And in this case, I'm actually in creative mode by accident. Just press Sneak, and you should be okay to do so. Oh, do I have some glass? I do have glass above me here. Oops. But you should be able to at least see that this safety switch, all it's doing is, oh gosh, I'm being pressed in here, is just keeping people from being crushed in there is all it is. Now to back up here, let me actually put some wheat in. I'll put in a whole bunch of it so that you can see how this process works. We'll do an entire stack. Put it in the hopper, which will slowly put things down, and it'll go a little bit at a time into this area here. It will start getting crushed, and then it will drop down onto this platform here, which of course there is currently, where is it? A belt funnel on one side, so it will automatically start picking up the drops that land in front of it. Let's open this up. And as a side product of wheat, if I look at the use for this and I click on the crushing here, you can see it will go in, you get wheat flour, a 25% chance of getting 2 more wheat flour, and there's also a 25% chance of getting wheat seeds, which wheat seeds I don't want processed. So I've got here an extractor that is tossing things into a hopper, and then the seeds come out the side. Other stuff goes through here. Once it's been crushed, it turns into wheat flour, which then gets extracted over here. As you can see, there is currently a filter for wheat flour only, and this side only has seeds. It then gets washed by the fans I have set up on the other side, just to show you I currently have fans there. And it just comes along here. Now, here's the cool thing about the fan setup, is that let's put a bunch of these down. If they are connected to each other, and you have some kind of rotational force connecting them, they'll all start working. You break the connection and it will stop. So that's a really cool thing about fans, that you don't have to have them all powered individually. You can have a bunch of them. And therefore you can see that they are currently being washed, turned into dough. And then from the dough, it's being cooked by the lava. And then it comes out down here as bread. And on average, you get about a stack and a half of bread from about a stack of wheat, which is pretty darn fantastic considering that 3 wheat in vanilla usually gets you 1 loaf of bread. So that's just an example of how that works. To run around the back side here, you can see I have all the fans. They're all just touching each other. There's only one of them is getting the torque. And of course, if you get too close, you're going to get like sucked in a little bit, but it's not a very strong speed on this one. And if you are setting this up, it doesn't mean you have to have 3 lava and 4 water or something like that. Depending upon the speed you currently have your belt set up at, you might need more or less of each one. You'll probably want to set it up and see how far it needs to go before it actually starts making it. In this case, you can see that the wheat flour is being turned into dough about here. So I don't actually need this water in this spot. I could actually condense this another block, or I could speed up the entire process. But by doing so, then the lava is not going to be cooking it fast enough unless I set up with another different speed belt sequence. So it's a little bit of a interesting way that you're going to have to set these things up. And this is just an example of how you can make yourself some bread from wheat and still get the seeds to replant again. Now, I do plan on doing some other bit-by-bits in the future on Create. One showing you a little bit about some farming, and another one showing you how you can make infinite resources from nothing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If so, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to come visit us out on Twitch most nights around 10 p.m. UK time. And I'll see you guys next time.